It is lights out and away we go, Mr. Adrian Huff. Hello, hello. It's a big week for you. It's obviously the United States Grand Prix. I'm not sure exactly why this one gets dubbed the United States Grand Prix, but I'll give you a little salute as well. You get the flag behind you that I maybe thought it was a Confederate flag for a second, but it's not.
No,
Um,
no, no.
Now, I take no joy, absolutely no joy in bringing this up, but I have to bring it up off the top just to, keep our listeners informed. But again, I take no joy in bringing this up. But your Braves lost, so that's a shame. But also, Georgia's arguably best player, their tight end Brock Bowers, is hurt and might not come back this season. So maybe the tides are turning in my favor. I don't know if that's how that works, but maybe it'll cheer you up to know we got three straight F1 race weekends coming up. So, how you doing?
Man, I'm very excited about the triple header that we've got, but the Braves that hurt a lot. Not you just now. I thought that was very funny, but that loss was very painful. I mean, it could have been an epic evening for me. We were down in a wedding in Jekyll Island in Georgia. It's this very nice little area that we were at, and I was watching the game. It was afterwards. It was after the evening before the rehearsal dinner. It was just a very nice evening, and I was just so hoping that we could. I was just saying the whole time, just take it to Atlanta, get to Atlanta, get to Atlanta. Fortunately, we did not. I was very upset, but props to the Phillies as much as I dislike them. Obviously they had some really insane moments, and yeah, just completely stomping us in game three was really heartbreaking. Or no, game two, because we had our comeback. So getting it all switched around. But it was very epic. I'm very sad that the Braves aren't going to be progressing, but it was some good games. It was fun to watch, but that last game was really tough because yeah, it just wasn't very good offense on our side. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's I'm certainly familiar with that. It's just sometimes it doesn't work out, but
It
maybe
doesn't.
next
And
year.
yep, if you know, Georgia losing a little bit of luck makes Toronto get a little bit, then that's okay because you guys are due. You guys are due.
We're due. We don't quite have a college football team, but maybe it'll transfer over to other sports. Um,
Yeah,
but on
absolutely.
the topic of F1, we got the USGP this week, and then Mexico next week, where Checo's fate may be decided, and then Brazil after that. So
Mm.
three different, but in some ways similar tracks. I mean, with U.S. and Mexico, they both have the kind of the S sector, um, but we've got just the never-ending story seems to be with Red Bull. Um, One thing I want to mention before I throw back to you, they had a tweet that kind of got people riled up a little bit about the Belgian GP because they announced that it was being extended. So they tweeted out racing at the Belgian GP until 2025. Sounds good. And it's a picture of Max Verstappen at the top of Eau Rouge, and he's with Daniel Ricciardo. It's a picture of him back when
Uh
Danny Rick was on the team. So people obviously put two and two together, whether it's intended or not, but they know what they're doing when they post that. So there's that. But yeah, why don't you fill me on the latest with this so-called civil war brewing within Red Bull?
yeah, I'm gonna say alleged civil war because a lot of this is, circulation from rumors and potentially just completely hearsay. It could be completely made up, some of the details, but allegedly there's some internal talks happening about Helmut Marko being removed from the team, no longer being involved in his position. And the big theory is that it's Horner sort of capitalizing on Helmut's recent miss. Just, I don't even know what to say. Just some of the horrible things that he said, over the course of the last couple of weeks. And people are theorizing that Horner's trying to use that to maybe take potentially full advantage of the team. Uh, and there's just a lot of murmurs about just some internal conflicts going on at Red Bull. I don't necessarily know if I personally agree with that. I don't think Christian is, I mean, he is cutthroat, but him and Helmet have a very long history, a very successful history with Red Bull. As unfortunate as some of the things he says are, Christian sort of always backed him in a way, at least maybe not the things he said, but him as a person. I think that there might be a little bit of truth to it. I think that potentially, I don't know this individual's name. I haven't looked into that, but the new CEO of Red Bull Racing, who's taken over the place or the missing role that Dietrich Mateschitz left when he unfortunately passed away. I could definitely see that someone sort of new coming into the team, not necessarily getting rid of Horner, but I could see this new person coming in and maybe being like, I don't know, even if we get rid of Helmet, I don't want Christian Horner to be the sole, responsible voice in the team, the one that makes the hard decisions solely by himself. But that's really just been this big surprise. The topic of the week is Red Bull drama. Surprisingly, it doesn't involve Sergio Perez this week. But yeah, I don't know, do you think Christian would potentially give Helmet the boot to take all the power? What do you think?
Yes. Will it happen? I don't think so. I mean, it's kind of just seems like it's a matter of time before Helmut Marko ages himself out. Like he makes comments almost every week now that we talk about it a lot, but they're either comments that are just things you should never say, or things that just they should probably keep in house that we like to hear, like the strategy stuff or the behind the scenes stuff. So Helmut Marko is definitely kind of aging himself out of the job. I definitely see Christian Horner wanting more power. I think he's got a lot of power right now, so I definitely don't see them taking away any power from him. As much as I would like that to happen, I'd like to see someone else come in there maybe, but I don't really think that's gonna happen unless, I don't know, something crazy would have to happen. But yeah, in terms of Helmut Marko, I think he's gonna kind of walk the plank eventually, whether it's this year, next year, the year after. I don't know if he makes it to the 2026 regulation change, but it's always something interesting to talk about. That's for sure.
Definitely. Hopefully he physically makes it to the 2026 regulations.
That's true. He may literally not make it.
But I guess we can we'll get back to Red Bull. Don't worry, we will get back to Red Bull. But this weekend is going to be two drivers, 100th Grand Prix. That's going to be Lando Norris and George Russell. This will be their 100th F1 race start, which is kind of crazy to think about. It does feel like they've been in the sport for a very, very long time, but 100 races, I mean, it is a big number, but when you really think about it, it doesn't seem like a very big number. I mean, Lewis has over 100 race wins, so, that just shows how long of a career he has, I guess. But it's also Charles Leclerc's 100th Grand Prix with Ferrari. He's done a little bit more than 100. He had a season with Sauber, so he has a little bit more than 100, but this is his 100th Ferrari race start. Do you think he will hit 200?
With Ferrari?
Yes. Definitely in the sport, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say yes. I think he's like their golden boy, so, I mean,
I hope
we'll
so.
Get to that. Something else in a minute that could change that, but yeah, I guess like congrats to Lando and George. I mean, it's an accomplishment. I'd be curious to know how many drivers in F1 history have gotten to 100 Grand Prix, especially with they used to have shorter seasons. So yeah, I'd be curious to know how many have done that. But definitely the best is yet to come. Like it does show how long it takes to become like a true F1. Like really be at the top of the sport. Like they're getting there now. Do you have any idea how much Max has? I mean, he started around the same time as them, so he may be a bit more, but that's pretty impressive. I think both of them, Lando, George, and Charles, will get to. I don't know,
Max Verstappen has 180 race starts.
180. Oh
yes.
Wow, so double. That's crazy. Wow, that's impressive. So yeah, pretty good. I think. Might as well just transition. We're talking about Ferrari. Keep going with Ferrari. This is one of those stories that kind of pops up a lot. It happened with Lewis Hamilton, but Max Verstappen was asked, I don't know exactly how it came up, but he expressed his desire to race with Ferrari one day. So I'm sure Christian Horner won't be happy to hear. But he did obviously say he's under contract with Red Bull for a long time. I think he said he's going to be like 31 when contract ends in like 2028 or something. So he said he thinks he'll still be pretty good by then. And I don't know if he's won a
Hockey
bunch.
master.
Like that is, I know that is it could like cement if he does. I know he says he doesn't want to go for like GOAT status, but I mean, I think once it gets to that point, if he's still driving, that's kind of the only thing left to go for. Um, so it would be cool to see him go to Ferrari. I mean, I don't know. That brings up the topic of who his teammate would be between Charles and Carlos. I'm sure one of them would most likely will move on by then to another team or something else. So I don't know. As still at least 5 years away, but what do you think of Max? Describe, and I mean, this happened with Lewis before. He said that he would love to race for Ferrari. It just never happened. But what do you think of Max talking about one day driving for Ferrari?
In theory, it's going to be amazing. I don't know if Ferrari, at least in the last maybe decade or so, I don't know if they would deserve that. But I think, honestly, I think if he did something like that, if he, at the end of his contract in 2028 with Red Bull, which by then, either Red Bull's going to be ready to let him go and just do a rebuild. That's what the word I was thinking of, or they're going to throw their whole bank account at him to keep him. So if he was to transition and he had nearly equal the success or managed to win a championship for Ferrari, especially if Ferrari's unable to do that by then, I think that would put him on like Schumacher level of just like absolute legend status. You can't, even just in theory, it's unbelievable to think. I mean, he would kind of be like a modern day Michael Schumacher. I mean, I know a lot of people look back on him as the GOAT. It's like Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, but on F1 it's Lewis or Michael, arguably. I know some people will throw plenty of other names out there, but I don't know. He's not, if you actually know a lot about Michael Schumacher, he wasn't the nicest guy. Very much like Max Verstappen, very aggressive, on and off the track, but he just flat out wanted to win and wanted to race, which I think you can compare that to Max at least a little bit. So if he actually did that, would be really, really fantastic. And there's been some photoshops of him in a Ferrari race suit, which kind of throws me off a little bit. It's very unnatural looking. If it actually happened, it would be a little bit hard to process. But I did see a picture of Charles Leclerc in a Red Bull suit. That got me almost as excited. That's something I can get behind right there. I know Lando Norris has been the talk to maybe take over that second seed in 2020 or after 2025, maybe, but I would be equally as happy with Leclerc, especially if Ferrari continue to just let him down as they have been.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to add before we move on to the next topic about Max and Ferrari is that Ferrari is pretty notorious for blowing their strategies and their race calls, and Max is notorious for kind of letting his team principal or race director, or whoever it may be, anyone that's on the mic, he's going to let him have it. So I think we'd get some pretty epic growing pains, if you will, in the first year or so. So
oh yeah,
I'm up for it. Yeah, at that point, Lewis will be out of F1, I'd have to assume. So
2028, yeah.
Got to assume. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be cool. But a team that's kind of hoping to join the likes of the Mercedes, the McLarens, the Ferraris, the Red Bull is Alpine. What's the latest on their exploits?
Yeah, so early in the season, we talked about how Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney invested in the team. He's in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they both just invested in, it's like what do you know the name of the soccer team they invested in? Wrexham. It was something like that, but I knew I'd mess it up somehow. But yes, Alpine have now gotten another round of celebrity investors. I'll go through the names really, really fast. You got some big names in the NFL. Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce. Then you've got Patrick Mahomes, teammates on the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you got some guys in other sports. You've got Anthony Joshua, who's a fighter. You've got Rory McIlroy, big golf name. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold, I believe him and Juan Mata are soccer players or football players, sorry. And then They've also got an investment capital firm, uh, Roger Ehrenberg of Eberg Capital. So they've got some money rolling in, some big names. I said this to you, I think yesterday or something like that. They've got all this money coming in, especially if they're going to be putting a lot of that into the development of the car and just trying to get that Renault, not Renault anymore, but Renault name. I mean, there was a time when Renault was in the top four up there with McLaren and Ferrari names, but not anymore. So I think they need a rebuild on their driver lineup. As much as I like Gasly, I'm not the biggest Ocon fan. I say that every week, I feel like. But I don't know. It just feels like with this much excitement, I feel like we need names to get excited about. And as talented, arguably, as those two guys are, I feel like we need a potentially bigger name behind the team. As much as they've seemed to have rallied behind Ocon, clearly. So what do I know?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I guess I would maybe rate Ocon and Gasly slightly higher than you. I think they're like definitely worthy of being an F1, but we, especially with Gasly, I'd say we definitely have seen maybe his ceiling. Like we kind of know how good he's going to be. He's not going to necessarily be a world champion. He can be maybe that second tier.
Yeah.
Ocon, I do think is kind of showing, as much as I know you dislike him, I don't love him that much as a guy, but I'm seeing like pretty good signs of him, and not the best car. He has some really good races, and he seems to have it. I don't know if he's as good as a world champion potentially, but it'll be tough. I think they're going to want to. It's interesting that it's Alpine. I guess maybe they're like the only team that has investment opportunities because they're just such a French team, and I guess they have issues with the French and the British aspect of it. I can't imagine them love it because they're going to love all this American influence. And I don't know. I just quickly looked up because I mean, anytime you say Travis Kelce now, it's just immediately associated with Taylor Swift. And don't get me wrong, I'm respect the hell out of Taylor Swift. I think what she's doing as a musician is incredible. As a football fan that watches them every Sundays, I'm getting a little bit tired. I just have to be honest, a little bit tired of the 50,000 shots and mentions a game. Now, don't come after me, Swifties, but it's just getting a little bit much. So I'm a little bit. I'm interested to see if Travis and Taylor show up at an F1 race, whether it's this weekend or in Vegas. They're playing. I just checked. The Chiefs are playing at 4:30 on Sunday in Kansas City. So I don't think they'll be at the race, but maybe a qualifying or something. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these, at least a few of the celebrities, show up this weekend. It seems like not a coincidence that they announced it on the week of the USGP. So whether it's here, I'm sure a lot of them will be at Vegas, regardless if they were going to invest or not. I think a lot of people will want to be at the Vegas GP just as like seems like it's a glitz and glamour, like show yourself type of event. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they do. I don't really know what their role is going to be, how much a percentage they own or whatever. Maybe I guess it's a good investment. I don't know if it's just strictly that, but when you have this many athletes kind of getting in on something, it seems like they're going to want to show their face at some point or have some sort of influence, but that remains to be seen.
I agree. Funny thing about the Taylor Swift, it's actually nothing's confirmed right now. This could be absolutely breaking news if this breaks before we release the episode. But there's rumors that they've already broken up. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh no, my heart. Oh.
I agree with
no.
the overexposure of Taylor Swift on the NFL. I don't put that on Taylor Swift though. I'm putting it on the NFL. They're just sort of obviously pandering to the Taylor Swift crowd because Taylor Swift, she's got some very, very passionate fans. They will crash a stranger's wedding. They'll rush her at the airport, like literally anything. They'll track her down. So, and now Travis Kelce is the highest selling jersey of the entire NFL. So, I get it. It's a business thing, but it is a lot. It's the only thing you see on any of the social media platforms. But, it'll be interesting to see where they take it, I guess, like you said, if they have any influence at all. Besides bringing, eyes to that team.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, I think that's definitely there's definitely room to improve. And if we even just see whether it's through like a lot of stuff with Alonso, or just like there's been a lot of stuff that's come up from behind the scenes that it's not a very well run organization or a smoothly run operation. So yeah, lots of room for improvement. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I guess while we're talking about driver lineups, I saw a quick thing from Max Verstappen. He was asked basically who the strongest driver pairing is in the grid. Now, obviously, he said Red Bull, and then I said, okay, besides Red Bull. And he said McLaren, which he said they've been the most consistent and with the most promise, which I think is a pretty fair assessment. I'd say it comes down to either Mercedes with Lewis and George, Ferrari, Sainz and Leclerc, or McLaren. I think they would even surpass Red Bull because just the drop off between like Perez being so much worse than everyone else compared there. So I don't know. Who do you think would be the top, let's say, top two driver pairings on the grid?
I can't disagree. McLaren have there goes my mic. McLaren have an extremely powerful driver lineup. I mean, I would have maybe had Mercedes in contention, but not after last week or their most recent stunt. I can't rate them, especially George. Can't rate them that high. As a lineup, individually, great, whatever. But
like, let's say all the cars were equal.
Sure. I mean, Carlos and Charles are a strong pairing. They're not the most teamwork driven, I'll say. I mean, Charles admittedly has been very much a team player this season. He's been willing to not pass Carlos when Carlos was slower and in front of him. He's not, even though he did almost crash at Monza into it, but he saved that. He didn't do it. They just aren't necessarily looking out for each other, especially Carlos. They're just very, very self-oriented, which is okay, So I'm a little hesitant to say them, but I'm going to say them. Yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe if all the cars were the same, then, K-Mag and Nico are not a bad combo. I think if the Haas was speedy and had the pace of maybe the Aston Martin, I think we'd be seeing way better results from those two guys. I rate those two guys very high.
They've been talking about a big upgrade that they're bringing to Austin for months. So, I mean, we'll see how that pays off. Maybe could be a sneaky prediction for good qualifying for them. I don't know if it'll hold up over the race length, but yeah, maybe they can get into Q3. That'd be nice.
I hope so.
That would be nice. What do we got next here? Ooh,
I was trying to see the pace, like you were talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's the Netflix Cup / Swing to Survive crossover event that everyone's been waiting for. Why don't you go ahead and read that little blurb, just that describes it. It's just under the.
Yes, the Netflix Cup. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, and Alex Albon will participate in the first live sports broadcast by Netflix next month. The 4 Formula One drivers will each team up with a professional golfer in the Netflix Cup, which will take place in Las Vegas on November 14th, 4 days before the series' new race in the city. Netflix is billing the contest as a union between its 2 prominent sports documentaries, Drive to Survive and Full Swing. Interesting. I didn't read too much into it when we first were talking about it. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be like a pre-recorded thing. The fact that it's Netflix's first live event is interesting. Cool. It is cool. It's not going to be as I guess as entertaining, I guess. It's just going to be a golf match, but I will definitely watch it. I mean, that is going to be a very, very hype weekend for F1. So
yeah, it's going to be crazy. I wonder if they're playing at the course in Vegas so you can see the, what's it called? That orb thing.
The globe, the sphere, whatever that's called. That's a good point, actually.
The golfers include Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, Ricky Fowler, and Justin Thomas. So, pretty good golfers, like top of the line golfers. Kind of surprised that Rory's not in there, considering he just bought into F1. But I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason for that. But Yeah, I mean, two of my favorite sports, so I'll definitely be tuning in. I don't have high hopes for it. They've been really pumping out these golf kind of crossover the match, or they'll have like a couple football players against a couple golfers and whatnot. So this sort of thing, and they're never really very entertaining. I mean, they had them with like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and stuff like that, and it's just it's the best thing usually was Charles Barkley making fun of them. So
yes,
I mean,
love Barkley.
again, not too high of hopes, but I'm sure they'll be like mic'd up, and maybe there'll be some interesting. I guess the best we can hope for, aside from like funny moments, is that the golfers will ask the F1 drivers some interesting questions about F1, like about how, I don't know, even like their schedule or their eating habits or their like what they do in the off time or their favorite places to go, stuff like that. I don't know, like maybe that could be interesting. We'll see. I'm sure Lando will do a couple of pranks or something silly that will split Twitter, because he's pretty divisive on Twitter. People love him or hate him, but yeah, that's kind of, I think, all I have on that. Well, it's November 14th, so we've got a couple races between now and then till we can focus on that. But a couple more content things that are coming out. The Brawn GP documentary has a release date. Has announced a release date. Good speaking, RJ. Brawn, the impossible Formula One story, revisiting the extraordinary tale of how Brawn GP pulled off a sporting miracle that shook the F1 world, is streaming November 15th on Disney+. So that should be good. Keanu Reeves, I believe, is a producer or something along those lines of that. And I believe they've interviewed like everyone involved between Ross Brawn, Jenson Button, all the major players involved in that. So that should be good. And then there's also a new trailer for the Ferrari movie coming out with Adam Driver as Enzo Ferrari, I believe. Looks pretty intense. I mean, it doesn't look like it's like a happy-go-lucky movie. I mean, it looks like it's going to be like actual, I don't know if it's a biography per se or whatever that's called in movie terms, but biopic or whatever. But I think it looks pretty good. I don't know if you've seen the new trailer yet. Looks pretty serious. It's a really good role for Adam Driver, I think. I really like him as an actor. So yeah, looking forward to that. Forget when the release date of that is, but yeah, a couple of F1 related or motorsport stuff kind of on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm very excited because, especially if you're a newer fan to the sport, if you haven't gone back and watched like just video essays or highlights or just anything read about Brawn, it's one of the obviously it's insane. The documentaries are going to be fantastic, and they've been sort of hyping it up with Keanu Reeves as a producer. I wonder how much he actually was involved, but I mean, just the fact that he rallied behind it to help get that production made is going to be really, really awesome. Let's see. The big news out of Austin this week is that Daniel Ricciardo is back. I said we're coming back to Red Bull, and I meant it. Daniel Ricciardo is returning to, as it is known now, as AlphaTauri. Who knows what they'll be known as, because they're also going to be announcing their name change over the course of this weekend, allegedly. So we will find out if they went with Hugo Boss, they went with Adidas. I'm rooting for Adidas. We'll see. But they did also say that they're going to be sort of taking over the Red Bull colors, not taking over, but they're going to be adopting the Red Bull colors next season. So it's going to pretty much be like having 4 Red Bulls on the grid, while, of course, the main Red Bull racing team is going to be a little bit farther ahead as far as development goes. But the AlphaTauri is going to for sure be a lot more speedy next year. But as of right now, they're going to be bringing some upgrades, including one of their drivers, Daniel Ricciardo, who will be back. And yeah, we mentioned something sort of at the top of the show regarding his simulation. I was sort of reading on Twitter, that's what I'm going to call it. Somebody was discussing, I think it was something from an interview. I had watched the video, but I unfortunately did not save it. And it wasn't even from Daniel. It was just somebody discussing his simulation times. And allegedly, I wasn't able to like fully verify this, but allegedly Ricciardo still, as of today, as of this morning, has not completed a full race length sim. So he hasn't done the full length of the race in the simulator. People are questioning if he's fully ready to come back and if he's fully healed. Will he be able to handle the full race length? I'll let you give your thoughts on that in just a second. Personally, I think he'll be okay. He's experienced, and I know he's been running the simulator a lot, so I've got confidence in him. This is his big track, and I'm sure he did everything he could to be fully prepared. If he had gone back in Bahrain, that would have just been absolutely insane, especially we've discussed those conditions so many times. But what do you think? Do you think I know we're not doctors, either of us, but do you think his wrist is fully recovered, or?
Dr. Huff kind of has a nice ring to it, I gotta say.
Dr. Huff. My sister's becoming a doctor, so that'll be an actual title.
There we go. But yeah, my thoughts on Danny. I think he'll definitely get through it. I don't think he'd be coming back if he weren't able to get through it. Also, once adrenaline kicks in, he might be hurting afterwards, but once adrenaline kicks in, I think he'll be okay to get through. I'm not sure how well he's going to do, although he does like this track and this place. I'm sure we're going to be seeing lots of videos of him with, I don't know, weird mustache, weird accents, weird hats, weird shirts, all of that fun stuff. So he's going to make a big return, I'm sure, starting, besides we haven't really seen stuff yet, but I'm sure starting tomorrow, we're going to be seeing lots of stuff coming out. Yeah, just happy to have him back. Really, I guess we'll find out. I don't know, it's tough. I want him to take that Red Bull seat, even though I don't like Red Bull. For him, I want him to take that Red Bull seat, but I don't know if he has enough time to prove that worth. But then again, they do seem to value simulator and stuff a lot, so that remains to be seen. But yeah, we got the USGP this week. We're back to races. I said earlier, 3 races in a row. Pretty excited for this one. Definitely, I mean, we haven't seen the Vegas track live yet, but I'd say definitely of the 3 F1 tracks in the United States, this is by far and away the best one. Curious to see how track limits are this week. The new guys in charge of that seems to be pretty stern on track limits this year, so we could have some issues there. But yeah, COTA, or Circuit of the Americas, they have all sorts of, they have a MotoGP race here, they have a NASCAR race here, so it's all in all just like a great place for racing. The fans are unbelievable. I think they set the attendance record there last year with about 400,000 fans. I read an article that they're not going for that this year. They're going for more like, they're still going to have a lot of fans, but they're kind of want to cater more to the fan experience. But yeah, some track info. First Grand Prix year, 2012. Number of laps, 56. And the lap record, 136.169. Charles Leclerc, 2019. Looks like we have 2 DRS zones, one just after the start-finish line, and then one before a very, very long straight, about halfway through the track. Fun track. The first sector pretty windy, and then the long straight on the second sector, and then the third kind of bit of both. You got your curves, and you got a long kind of banking long turn near the end. So yeah, fun track. We'll see how. I don't think track surface should be too much of an issue. We'll see how I said track limits. Who knows? The weather looks like, I'm not going to read through all this because it's all pretty much the same. Looks like it's going to be hot. Looks like it's going to be a little bit windy, which is probably good for the heat, but looks like it's going to be hot. Friday, 33 degrees Celsius. Saturday, highs of 34 degrees. And Sunday, more clouds, but high of 32 degrees. Temperature, no doubt, ensuring that tire strategy becomes a vital part of the weekend. So yeah, we'll see if they learn anything. If it does get really, really hot and the drivers are having issues, and can't imagine it would be as bad as Qatar, but it'll be interesting to see if they learned anything from that experience in the people that be. And then, where am I here? Well, it's another sprint weekend, so times. Where do we got the times here? Schedule, United States. If you need. Sorry, I got it. I should have switched tabs. Okay, practice 1, again, Eastern Standard Time. Practice 1, Friday, 1:30 p.m. Qualifying, 5 p.m. Sprint shootout, Saturday, 1:30 p.m. The sprint race, 6 p.m. Saturday, and then the actual race, Sunday at 3 p.m. So good times for those of us in Eastern Standard Time. I don't know how that equates. Probably just like later night, or maybe like midnight or so for what's the latest qualifying 5, I think 6 hours later in Britain. So it's still not too bad for them in the UK and whatnot. So I don't think anyone should have too many complaints. I don't know, unless you're in like Australia or something. But overall, looks like pretty exciting. We got another sprint. I think it's the first time they've had back-to-back sprint weekends. So we have that. Yeah, any thoughts on that sort of stuff? And then I guess we can get into our predictions and hopes for the weekend.
Gosh, I'm very excited. I've been trying so hard to find the stat that I saw earlier, and I am not able to. I had saved the performance statistics of all the cars and who was going to be fastest based on pace going into the weekend, not taking into the Austin upgrades into account. The only thing that I remember is that McLaren still the second fastest, and allegedly, as of Qatar, Aston Martin have fallen to 9th fastest vehicle. They were just absolutely abysmal. And yeah, that's some estimations too. So don't fully take my word for it. But I feel really bad for Alonso. I hope they're able to recover because I really want him to do well. I love Alonso. I'm still hoping he gets that race win. It's been a while. But yeah, that's just a little bit crazy to me. Obviously, Red Bull's still ahead, but really, really excited to see what McLaren have been able to do. I recalculated the scores to our fantasy league just because I was just a little bit interested. You are over 200 points ahead of me, over 1,000 points total for your team. It's really, really insane. But an interesting thing is, as of the last time we had updated it, and I don't fully remember when that was, but Oscar Piastri had like 17 points. And Max Verstappen had over half the amount he does now. So that just shows to show like how insane he's gotten 70 points just in, like less than maybe 10 races, 10 GP, something like that. So McLaren's charge these final 5 races is really going to be something special to watch. And I am so excited for next year. But short term, I'm very excited for the Austin GP. Make sure you come back next week. To get our predictions, sorry, I completely spiffed that up. Come back next week to get the recap of the Austin GP and for the sort of prerequisite and the pre-show talking about Mexico. But we're going to give you our Austin predictions right now. So RJ, what is your podium prediction for this weekend?
Give that in a sec. I'm as much as you're looking forward to seeing the McLarens in the last 5 weeks, I'm very excited to watch Lewis try and chase down Checo for P2. And if track limits are any sort of issue this week, we've seen 2 men that are very bad with track limits this year, and that is, especially as of late, that is Mr. Lance Stroll and Mr. Sergio Perez. So, I don't know. Could be, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, hopefully some more points. I just want there to be something exciting to look forward to coming down to the last few weekends. So hopefully Lewis catching Checo for P2 in the overall driver standings is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. Hopefully we can get a little catching up this week. But in terms of teams that are bringing upgrades, I have read that Mercedes is one of the teams bringing a pretty decent upgrade. So we'll see how that goes. We mentioned Haas bringing an upgrade and maybe AlphaTauri. A couple teams bringing upgrades this week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing hopefully Mercedes get a little bit closer. Prediction. Obviously, we're going to predict Max to get first. I think the McLarens over the course of the weekend are going to have, I think Oscar and Lando will both get podiums this weekend, whether it's in the race or the sprint or both. But I think I've got to hope that Lewis can get at least a podium in either the sprint or the race. I don't think I don't know. I'm not really predicting much good stuff for Checo. I think I don't know. I don't think Ferrari. Again, I could sound like an idiot, but I don't think Ferrari's going to be past McLaren, and I'm hoping that Lewis can do something. So realistically, in terms of the pecking order, I think it'll be Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari. But we'll see. Lots of stuff could happen. What about you?
Oh man, I'm gonna be optimistic about my boys. I'm gonna say Max. I'm gonna say Oscar. And then I'm going to say Leclerc. I really want Ferrari to do good. I mean, I know Ferrari have had a good bit of success as of late, but it's only really been for signs that I need Leclerc to get back into proper form. You mentioned Haas are bringing upgrades this weekend. They have fully admitted that they're switching to the Red Bull design, the Red Bull concept. So they're just fully all in on let's just try to copy the fastest car on the grid. So yeah, it's got a lot of teams bringing upgrades. It could maybe you never know. Mercedes are bringing a big upgrade. It could nudge out McLaren. They could be right back in second place just like that. That's just how quickly the sport changes. But is there anything else that you want to add on before we get out of here?
Be interesting to see how Lewis and George actually deal with it back on track. And I don't know, Oscar. We haven't really seen Oscar and Lando go at it a little bit at Monza, but nothing bad. Curious to see how long Lando's gonna. Lando doesn't want a rookie beating him, so curious to see that. Yeah, there's just lots to look forward to this weekend. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo, but yeah, we're gonna get back on track pretty shortly here. So, anything else for you? I'm good for this week.
Only other thing I could think of is, I'm very curious how Sergio Perez is going to do. Helmet did come out and say, take this with a grain of salt, but allegedly there's no ultimatum for him. If he does lose P2, that doesn't necessarily mean he's losing the seat. I don't know how much I believe that. Take that as you will. The F1 news cycle just repeats. It just changes so fast. Did we even talk about Checo's alleged retirement? Was that last week, or was that in between episodes? I can't even remember.
I think it was between.
I don't even think there was a whole rumor of Checo retiring after this season, and then his literal manager replied to that tweet with a bunch of laughing emojis, which, again, could be total lies. They could be wanting to get a good severance package, but again, all hearsay. If he manages to pull together a decent performance these last 5 races, I could see him being there in 2024. But yeah, Daniel's been posting that Red Bull helmet that he wore in Tennessee an awful lot. Him and Max. Good. I mean, we'll see. Some people think that that's not even in the cards if they get rid of Sergio. I think some people are in denial, but we will see. Come back next week. We will update on any sort of major news updates, bringing you the news. We'll let you know what happened in Austin. Sure, you'll already know, but come and get our thoughts, get to know us, and make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate us on Spotify. Anything you can do is so greatly appreciated to help expose the podcast. So again, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.